Is this thing on? It is. All right, I'm DaRock. Welcome back to the channel. Here we'll be once again talking some college basketball as it is officially March. If you're a college basketball fan, best month of the year. So I'm excited to be talking, going through some games this week, but it's the final week of the regular season for power conferences, and then some conference tournaments for mid-major leagues have already started. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit as well. Going through some results here, looking at some bracket projections, stuff like that, and then giving some picks for, like I said, regular season games as well as some conference tournaments. So if you've been here all year watching these videos that I've been making, or you're showing up here in March, make sure to subscribe to the channel or follow the show if you're listening here on Spotify. Anything really helps. Make sure while you're down there also like the video, rate the show 5 stars, comment. Like I said, are you excited for March? Do you think March is the best month of the year? I think that's kind of a topic of debate online here as well. So let me just know how excited you are for March, and let's get into this video. All right, so we'll start here with looking at the most recent Fielding the 68 projection here. So once again, they have 3 1 seeds of Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and then UConn is the 4th 1 seed. Out of the 2 lines, we got some changes. We got Iowa State, Houston, Florida, and Illinois as the 2s. Purdue now down to a 3 with Michigan State, Nebraska, and Texas Tech, who I believe has also jumped up to a 3. And then the 4s, we got Alabama, Kansas, Arkansas, and Virginia. So a lot of movement of these top teams. I would say like those top 3 seeds are really already kind of sealed here. Duke, Michigan, and Arizona are all going to be 1 seeds. It's just going to kind of come down to who kind of ends up being the number 1 overall seed. And then it's kind of a race of, UConn, Florida, Houston, Iowa State, who can maybe kind of get that last one. So it'll be interesting to see there. Any other lines, really nothing too crazy. Carolina, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Arkansas at the 5, St. John's, Kentucky, BYU, Wisconsin at the 6. BYU, I'm kind of surprised, still at a 6 at this point. The way they've been playing lately, I feel like they might be dropping more, but we will have to see. And then we'll kind of go on then here to their first 4 out, last 4 in kind of thing. So for them, they have the last 4 in of Santa Clara, TCU, New Mexico, and VCU, which those 4 teams I would kind of like to see. I mean, TCU's an interesting case. They have some bad losses, but they also have some good wins. And then 3 mid-major teams, I think would be fun. Having a 3-bid WCC, a 2-bid A10. Believe that'd only be 2 bids for the Mountain West, which is usually, been closer to like a 3 or 4 bid league last couple of years, so a little bit down there. And then first 4 out, Vatech, Cal, Indiana, Auburn. I got to say, Indiana, Auburn, I really don't want to see anywhere near the tournament. I really hope they don't get in. I hope that's like 1-2 where I kind of almost hope we have some like bid stealers too, where maybe those teams are really pushed out. However, I don't know. Like I said, I kind of want to see more mid-majors in, so like having 3 of the 4 teams in Dayton be mid-majors, I'm a big fan of that. And then we'll go on here. I am going to start the show with this week as well. Championship tracker. So here, this graphic. This week I'm using Field 60, or not Field 68. Projection Sports graphic, because as you can see, like they do, if there's teams that split it, these are teams that have clinched it kind of thing, where the other one I used last week, I was confused of who had a share, who was, full champion kind of thing. So we had 3 more additions here on Monday night with Duke winning the ACC, Arizona winning the Big 12, and then Stephen F. Austin winning the Southland. Other ones that we see here, Belmont has won the Valley. I think that one already was done. WCC ends up being a split between Gonzaga and St. Mary's after St. Mary's knocked off the Zags there on Saturday night. Other ones, East Tennessee won the SoCon. I think I already talked about that. Morehead State and Tennessee State ended up splitting the OVC. High Point wins the Big South. Portland State wins the Big Sky. ASUN a split between Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. American East goes to UMBC. I think a lot of these other ones I've already kind of touched on my previous video. Like I said, we got conference tournaments starting this week. The Horizon, won by Wright State, already started tonight. They had their play-in game, and then I know we got the Sun Belt's crazy ladder. That starts tomorrow, as well as Patriot League, won by Navy, starting tomorrow. So I'm going to kind of touch on those there at the end of the video. All right, so let's get into some game picks. And this week with the picks, I'm not going to do a whole lot of games, just because, like I said, it's really just power conferences this week. A lot of the mid-major leagues are finishing up, and 2, we're kind of seeing more and more here of these power leagues getting wrapped up. So just going to kind of do like a couple games with, league title race implications or bubble implications. We'll start here On Tuesday in the SEC, the 16th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, who are 22-7 on the year, 12-4 in the SEC, head to the Georgia Bulldogs, who are 20-9, 8-8 in the SEC. This one's at 6:30 Eastern Time on ESPN News. So Georgia, a team that, they're in the tournament right now, but maybe a couple more wins kind of help really secure their spot. Alabama, a team that is still fighting for a share of the SEC title. They're 2 games back of Florida, who already clinched their share with their win against Arkansas over the weekend. But now, these two teams, or Alabama's a team that, if they win their last 2 games and Florida were to lose, those last 2 games, they could still get a share. So Alabama had a really nice win against Tennessee on the road over the weekend, a game that they trailed for majority of, but then LeBaron Philon ends up hitting the game winner, so they take down the Volunteers 71-69 at home there at Knoxville. Georgia, they bounced back from their loss at Vanderbilt during the week with a nice win over South Carolina, South Carolina, bottom tier team here in the SEC. So, that's one, like I said, would have been a really bad loss. So this game, really the matchup I want to watch out is to see LeBaron Philon going up against Jamal Wilkinson. Those 2 guys are kind of the key guards to watch for each side there, Philon for Alabama and then Wilkinson for Georgia. So looking here, other metrics efficiency-wise, Alabama's 6th in offense and 38th defense. Georgia's 13th offense, 69th defense. Both these teams are going to like to play really fast. Alabama's 3rd in pace here, and Georgia's 46th. So 2 very fast teams. This one's projected to be a close one, projected to be a high-scoring game. Has Alabama getting the win, 89-88 here on the road. So like I said, we're looking at a game that's going to be played in, essentially the 90s. That would not surprise me one bit here. These 2 teams like to play, really fast here, get up and down the court, and in a game like that, I just kind of end up going with the team that is better, that has, the more talented guards, and in that case, this is Alabama, with Philon, with guys like Latrell Wrightsell. So I like the Crimson Tide to go on the road there and get the win. Then we'll move on, in the SEC here. Kentucky Wildcats, 19-10 on the year, 10-6 in the SEC, head to the Texas A&M Aggies, who are also 19-10. 9-7 in the SEC. This one's at 7 Eastern Time on ESPN2. So Kentucky won 2 straight games, beat South Carolina, like I just mentioned, is one of the bottom tier teams there in the SEC. But a nice win over the weekend, 91-77 against Vanderbilt. Game that, they really just kind of dominated. That we've kind of seen in some of these spots, Kentucky hasn't really come to play. So that was a really nice win there. Texas A&M, on the other hand, they're coming off 2 straight losses. They lost at Arkansas during the week and then lost at home to Texas on the weekend, got swept there by the Longhorns here on the season. So not playing great ball here. Like I said, Texas A&M was a team that was leading the SEC to start the year, and now they're a team, like I said, in the field right now, but we'll see. Like this, they really can't afford to keep losing, and then Kentucky's a team that, playing some good ball, but they're another team. Like both these teams really want this win. I mean, Kentucky safely in the field at a 6, like I mentioned. A&M, on the other hand, is at a 10. So, like you said, in right now, but another loss might hurt them. So, looking here at the ratings in this one, Kentucky's the 34th most efficient offense and 20th defense to A&M's 40th offense and 41st defense. A&M likes to play way faster here. They're 43rd in pace to Kentucky's 143rd. So, not like a huge difference, but A&M is definitely the quicker team. So, looking at the projections here, has Kentucky winning this one 78-77. I'm probably going to go with that, even though, it is a road game here. I do just kind of like Kentucky more. Guys like Otega Oweh have been playing really well as of late. He's their leader there for Kentucky, as well as, Denzel Aberdeen, Malachi Moreno are guys that have, really contributed. And even Colin Chandler's been playing really well, where Texas A&M, I feel like it's really just kind of Rashawn Agee. That's, their leader. And he just really can't put the team on his back against a team like Kentucky that I think is just kind of more talented. Jakari Lane also there for the Aggies is one of their go-to guys. But I like Kentucky to get the win here in this one, despite it being a road game. However, I'm going to be honest, I've had a really hard time figuring out Kentucky in the picks all year, so we'll see how this goes. Then we'll move on to the Big 12 here on Tuesday, where the TCU Horned Frogs, 19-10 in the year, 9-7 in the Big 12, head to the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who are now ranked 10th. Who are 22-7 on the year, 12-4 in the Big 12. This one's at 7 Eastern Time on FS1. Despite losing JT Toppin, the Red Raiders have now won 3 straight games, taking down Kansas State and Cincinnati, who aren't, great teams by any means, but going on the road, winning in Hilton Coliseum against Iowa State over the weekend, very impressive. Not something I saw coming. Like, this is a team I definitely thought was going to take a step back with that injury to Top. He's their leading scorer and leading rebounder here still on the season, but it doesn't matter. Christian Anderson, who's their leading assist man, has really stepped up. Luke Bemgoye had a really big game in that Iowa State game over the weekend. And guys, like Lawan Watts, Jalen Petty, they've been playing really well for the Red Raiders as well. TCU, they've won 3 straight games, so they're playing some good ball here. Granted, beat a not-so-great Kansas State team on the road, 76-68. They're led by David Punch, scoring 14 points per game. He had a nice game in that one. So looking here at the ratings, Texas Tech's the 7th in offense efficiency and 26th defense. TCU's 90th offense and 34th defense. So if TCU's going to stick in this one, I think it's like they're really going to have to kind of slow down Texas Tech defensively and really, offensively, play good defense this one. Granted, it's contrasting pace here. Neither team is particularly quick, but Texas Tech's pretty slow. TCU's 151st in pace to Texas Tech's 251st. So, Texas Tech does like to play a little bit more of a methodical game, rather than TCU, which not a team that likes to get out and get going in transition, but definitely the quicker team there. So looking at the projections in this one, it has Texas Tech winning by 13, 80-67, and I have to agree with that. I think Texas Tech is the better team here. Granted, TCU, like I said, is playing some good ball, but it's been against lesser opponents. It's not been against teams here that are the top of the Big 12, and I think, especially going to Lubbock, I think is going to be a really tough task. So for that reason, give me the Red Raiders to get the win there. Then we'll move on to the Big 12 or Big East here on Tuesday. Probably the most influential game here was either this one or the St. John's Georgetown game. But the Seton Hall Pirates, who are 19-10 in the year, 9-9 in the Big East, head to the Xavier Musketeers, who are 14-15, 6-12 in the Big East. This one's at 7 Eastern time on True TV. So Seton Hall has a little bit of work to do. They're probably in the next 4 out, not the first 4 out. So they are, definitely a bubble team. Need to get some wins here. And going on the road to a place like Xavier is never an easy task. So the Musketeers got a win against Georgetown over the weekend, 91-84 after losing their previous 3 games. And Seton Hall, on the other hand, they played UConn tough. That would have been a really big win for them. But they end up falling 71-67 against the Huskies over the weekend after beating Georgetown during the week. They had lost their previous game to DePaul as well. So Seton Hall, a team that was leading the Big East at one point this year, was towards the top of the league. That's now, kind of middle of the pack here. And like I said, has some work to do if they're going to get into the dance. So looking here at the numbers, Seton Hall is 150th in offensive efficiency and 15th defensively to Xavier's 73rd offense and 109th defense. So Seton Hall's defense could really play a big factor in this one, especially looking at the pace here. Xavier's 22nd in pace. Seton Hall's 288th. So definitely a big contrast in styles here where Seton Hall likes to really slow it down as Xavier's going to look to, really go quick here. They're led by Trey Carroll and Philip Borkovinainen for the Musketeers. Those are really their 2 go-to guys. For Seton Hall, Adam Clark has been their leading scorer and assist man. So it's going to be, kind of a battle between him and Borkovinainen. See how, if he can maybe slow down Xavier's. Like I said, Xavier's going to want to play quick in this one. Seton Hall, I think really their advantage here is trying to slow this game down. Looking at the projections, has Xavier winning 72-71. In all honesty, with this game being at Xavier, granted, Seton Hall did win the first 2 meetings between these 2 teams and pretty handily, but I don't know. Looking at the spread here, having it only be a 1.5 point spread and the projections having Xavier win, I'm going to go with the Musketeers to get the win here. And then the one mid-major game that I'm going to talk about here on Tuesday, we have the George Mason Patriots, 22-7, 10-6 in the A-10, head to the VC Rams, who are 22-7, 13-3 in the A-10. This one's at 7 Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. So this is one where George Mason a couple weeks ago, especially when I had my guy A10 Superfan on, I'm going to have him back on before the 2 of us go to the A10 tournament, kind of preview that. I kind of thought it was George Mason that was, the second best team in the A10 there behind SLU. And it's really ended up turning out to BVCU, like we just saw here. They're in the last 4 in at this point. So with this game, being here at home, this would be a big one for them to get. The Rams are led by Terrence Hill Jr. scoring 14 points per game with nearly 3 assists. Watching him and Kalen Mincy for George Mason go at it, who's also scoring 14 points per game, I think that should be pretty fun in this one. Mason finally got back in the win column after losing their last 4 games. They've beat Bonaventure over the weekend. And VCU, they win against Fordham by 20, or Fordham by 20 over the weekend after losing their previous game to SLU. Looking at the metrics here, George Mason's 106 in offense, 163rd defense to VCU's 84th offense and 87th defense. So they have the advantage in both units there. VCU likes to play really quick here. They're 86th in pace to George Mason's 353rd. So I guess maybe really not insanely quick by VCU, but George Mason likes to play very slow, and that's where I think this one's going to get them, in trouble. Looking at projections here, it has VCU winning this game by 9 points. Their the line is 11.5. And like I just said, it's two teams that are kind of going in opposite directions. VCU playing some really good ball here as of late. George Mason, on the other hand, while they did win their last game, really aren't. And especially against a team where they're going to want to play slow here, and VCU wants to play quick, like they're going to need to add more possessions to this game if they're going to win, not take them away. And, that's where their style they play, I think, is going to hurt them in this one. So for that reason, I am going to go with VCU to get the win here. Then moving on to Wednesday, we're going to go to the ACC, where the 22nd ranked Miami Hurricanes, 23-6 on the year, 12-4 in the ACC, head to the SMU Mustangs, who are 19-10 on the year, 8-8 in the SEC or ACC. This one's at 7 Eastern time on the ACC network. So these two teams kind of playing opposite styles here of late. Miami wins against Boston College and Florida State last week, where SMU, it's a very tough trip, but heading out west, they drop both games at Cal and at Stanford. The Mustangs are currently in the field here as a 10 seed. It's a team that, when I've gone on Carter's show, like we both talked a lot about how we think it's a team that, led by Boopy Miller and Jeron Pierre, like those two guards could kind of carry the Mustangs to maybe, an upset win or two here in March, but they got to, make sure they get in here. So they now host, Miami, who's just cracked the rankings this week. It's not going to be tough, or not going to be an easy test. They're led by Malik Renew and Trey Donaldson, is kind of, their guard big duo there, with Donaldson, the guard, and Renew leading scorer with 19 points. But Donaldson's been, having some really high scoring games as of late here as well. Looking at the ranks, Miami's 42nd offense efficiency, 42nd defense to SMU's 20th offense and 92nd defense. So both offensive units are the better teams here. SMU likes to play quicker, 81st in pace to Miami's 162nd. And I think we are looking at probably a pretty high scoring, pretty fast paced game here. Like I said, the guard play I think is going to be really good in this one. Like I said, Miller and Pierre for SMU, and then Donaldson for Miami. Looking at the projection, has SMU winning this game by 3. There's no line out for it yet, just because it's it's a Wednesday game. And honestly, I think I am going to go with SMU to win this one. Like I said, they're in right now as a 10 seed, but they really need to win. Like, they cannot afford to really drop any more games here if they're going to feel good about themselves. Plus, looking here at the standings, they want to make sure in ACC play they're right, kind of on that cut line to get a bye, where if they can't really lose any more games. This is a win that SMU really needs to set themselves up nicely here come ACC tournament and NCAA tournament time. So for that reason, I think they'll be more desperate, and I'm going to go with SMU to get the win. And then we'll move on to Thursday and feature this game, just to feature a Big Ten game, because while they have wrapped up the Big Ten regular season title, the third-ranked Michigan Wolverines, 27-2 on the year, 17-1 the Big Ten, head to the Iowa Hawkeyes, who are 20-9, 10-8 in the Big Ten. This one's at 8 Eastern time on Peacock. Michigan, it's still going to be a fight for that number 1 overall seed between, like I said, I think right now Duke probably has the inside track. They're the number 1 team in the AP poll, which granted that doesn't really matter. But they did also, now beat Michigan head-to-head. But if the Blue Devils slip up, or even, Arizona slips up, Michigan, it's still, has a chance at that number 1 overall seed. But you got to win games like this. And going to Carver Hawkeye Arena, never an easy task. Granted, Michigan did just go on the road, beat Illinois 84-70, but it wasn't even that close on Friday in their last game. And Iowa, on the other hand, they got upset at Penn State 71-69. Maybe, they were looking a little bit ahead here to this Michigan game, but that's a really bad loss. And like I said, Iowa's another team. They're in the dance. They're fine. They should be in. But you don't want to drop too many more games like that. So team leaders here, Bennett Sturts is the go-to guy for Iowa. I've just kind of talked about that. That's going to really be the key in this one. Can he have one of his big games where he takes over? Cooper Koch is another guy for the Hawkeyes that's been playing well recently, had some high-scoring games. And then their big Tavion Banks is really going to have a tough task trying to stop Yaxel Lendenberg, Morez Johnson, Ade Mara, that three-headed monster there for Michigan. Those guys are all, just so solid inside, with Lendenberg the leading scorer and Johnson the leading rebounder. Plus, then, Elliott Cadeau. We'll see if, maybe he can slow down Bennett Sturts or, keep pace with him offensively. That should kind of be a fun guard matchup to watch there as well. So looking here at the metrics, Michigan's second in offense efficiency, third defense to Iowa's 25th offense and 32nd defense. This is another one contrasting styles. Michigan 28th in pace, Iowa 357. So that's kind of what Iowa's going to have to do to win this game, is just kind of take the air out of the ball, make this a very slow game, because Michigan, they're a team when they get out in transition with those bigs, and you don't let the other team can't set up their defense, and even when they do set up their defense, they're so hard to stop. We're going to see. It's going to be a very tough task there for Iowa. Looking at the projections, does have Michigan winning this game by 10 on the road. And like I said, Carver Hawkeye Arena is a very tough place to play there in Iowa City, but Michigan's that good. I mean, they just went into Illinois, which is a very tough place to play. Got the win, no problem. So for that reason, I don't think that Michigan should have any problem. I think they get the win in this one. So just going quickly here through some games for the rest of the day's games to watch. So like I said, we got the Sun Belt starting here. Their tournament with Georgia State and Louisiana, first round of their 14-team ladder is pretty crazy. So that one gets going here on Tuesday. Georgetown St. John's, like I said, that was maybe the other Big East game I was talking about featuring, but St. John's just dominated Villanova at home. Now they welcome Georgetown. They should have no problem destroying them again in that one. Clemson, North Carolina is a big ACC game. Two pretty good teams there. Carolina projected to win. I think they probably do get the win there at home. However, they do have to go to Cameron Indoor during the week, or on the weekend, so we'll see kind of how they hold on there. Missouri, a team that's in the dance right now, but having to go to Oklahoma, where Oklahoma is actually projected to win that at 7 Eastern time on ESPNU. That should be a pretty fun one. We'll see there if the Tigers can get the win. Miami, Ohio looks to improve to 30-0. Against Toledo, second to last game there of the regular season at 7 Eastern time on ESPN+. Dayton at Richmond, a fun A-10 contest on ESPN+ as well at that time. Dayton's been playing some good ball as of late. And then Tuesday, kind of slower day. On the late slate, Oregon heads to Illinois at 9 Eastern time on Peacock. We'll see if Illinois can kind of bounce back. However, Oregon beat Wisconsin last week, and Wisconsin has won at Illinois this week. Granted, going on the road, they're a lot tougher. Old Dominion, UL Monroe's the other Sun Belt game. Kansas heads to Arizona State, projected to win, but Arizona State has beat some top teams this year. San Diego State and Boise State, a fun Mountain West clash at 9 Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. Game that San Diego State, if they're going to get in the tournament, really needs to win if they're going to have any hope of an at-large bid. And also at 9 Eastern time on ESPN2. BYU heads to Cincinnati, second game of that East Coast trip there for them. BYU has really been struggling as of late. Already lost at West Virginia. Now they have to go to Cincinnati. He's been playing better. We'll see, man. That's going to be tough. And then really late night, Nebraska heads to UCLA, 11 Eastern time in FS1. That'd be a huge win for UCLA if they could get. The Bruins are in the tournament right now, but it's gonna be close for them. That'd be a really big win. And then Utah State heads to UNLV. Same thing. Aggies are pretty squarely in, but who knows? UNLV maybe could pull an upset there. Then moving here to Wednesday, the ASUN tournament gets going on Wednesday. You can see there Bellarmine, Jacksonville, Florida Gulf Coast, North Alabama, Stetson, East Kentucky, and then West Georgia, North Florida. Creighton heading to Butler in the Big East. We got Minnesota at Indiana. Indiana, team that's probably going to end up missing the dance. Like I said, I don't really want to see them in. We'll see if maybe they can get the win there. Texas, team that's in the field right now, but if they somehow get a win at Arkansas, that would be a pretty big deal there. We got more Horizon League second round games going on here as well. Ohio State heads to Penn State. Ohio State now in the field after that big win over Purdue. But Penn State, like I just mentioned, upset Iowa during the week. We'll see if maybe they can pull a second upset here in a row. Other than that, we got Purdue heading to Northwestern. Boilermakers should win that one. Baylor heading to Houston. It should be a pretty easy win for Houston. Stanford Notre Dame expected to be a close one. As well as then we got Colorado State heading to New Mexico. So that'd be a bad loss there for the Lobos. So definitely a game they need to win there. And then USC heading to Washington. Granted, USC now without Chad Baker has already left the program. They're probably not going to make the tournament, but we'll see there. And then wrapping up Thursday, more conference tournaments to get going. Really the big ones, like I said, regular season-wise, it's Michigan, Iowa. Then we got Rutgers heading to Michigan State. Rutgers did take Michigan State to overtime the first time they played in New Jersey, so we'll see if maybe that's another close one. We got a couple, CUSA and American games like MTSU, FIU, Tulane, Temple, Sam Houston, and Delaware. Granted, like I said, Liberty's kind of already wrapped, or not kind of, Liberty has already wrapped CUSA, really is their conference to lose. USF and Memphis game that probably going into the year they thought was going to be a good game will not be. And then just more conference tournaments like, the Summit's playing. Big West isn't conference tournament, but we got some Big West games. WCC conference tournament does start, as well as then Arch Madness starts on Thursday as well. I don't think they have their projections in here for that yet. So like I'm saying, conference tournaments getting started this week. So we got some nice graphics here on Twitter. This one, Field 68. Just kind of going through here what, league, what games they have each day. So the Horizon already started here Monday night. Tuesday, we got the Patriot and Sun Belt getting started. ASUN, Big South, OVC, and Summit start on Wednesday. And then the MVC, MAC, AA MAC, and WCC starting, as well as the maybe that was it. But conference tournament starting all week, so there you go. That's a nice graphic with what round each day by the Field 68 here. Basketball Review did a good one where it's what TV network it is on each day. Granted, it doesn't have the rounds, but it has the TV network where you can find each game, and it is a little bit confusing with the date here, but so be it. Then I know Hoops HD, they got a bunch of stuff on their site. Big one too is they just kind of have like every conference tournament bracket filled out there. And then let's just go through some of mine because when I search conference tournament schedule, my tweet comes up. So I already posted some of mine, and I'm going to shout out the networks I got this from here in a sec. So in the Horizon, like I said, started here on Monday. It was just a playing game though, so I don't think this is too consequential. I got Robert Morris winning it. I think them and Wright State, it's really going to be their league. Those are the top two seeds. And granted, this is maybe a little bit of a funky format here that they got, but I would say those are the two teams that I like to win it as favorites. If you're looking for maybe an underdog, you go Oakland, you go Detroit Mercy, even like a Green Bay, with Coach Doug Gottlieb. But, I was really impressed with them when I watched them in person this year. So I guess, maybe not crazy, but yeah, even really, if I had to pick out those three teams, it'd maybe be Green Bay. Granted, I think Oakland probably doesn't have beating there like I picked there. But yeah, Robert Morris is my pick there to win the Horizon. Like, I'm not going to act like I watched a bunch of these teams all year. Like I said, I did actually go to two Horizon League games in person where I did see Wright State play, and then saw Green Bay play Purdue Fort Wayne, who it's kind of funny they're playing there again. So I'm not going to talk about them a bunch on the pod, but I am going to try to do some like written content as well as, I've been posting all this stuff on TikTok. Next one, Patriots starts here on Tuesday. I have Navy winning the league. They're number one seed. Granted, maybe, a little chalky here. I have them beating Colgate, actually, the 3 seed in the championship. Colgate, it seems like they've always kind of been in the mix. But Navy really just kind of ended up running away with the Patriot League this year. Plus, this is a tournament, too, where it then gets played at the 1 seed's gym. So Navy, is going to be hosting these games. I have a hard time seeing someone beating them. Give me the midshipmen there. And then the Sun Belt, which wacky format. I kind of hate this format that they do. Like, I like the ladder for the leagues where you can play a full like double round robin, so like an 8 to 10 team league. I think for leagues like this where it's not a full double round robin, getting a double bye in a 14 team tournament I feel like should be plenty. Because honestly, for me, like Arkansas State's a team that I would like to win this league, but because of tiebreakers, like they tied for second, tiebreakers they come in 7th, where now they'd have to play 5 games to win the Sun Belt Championship here, where Marshall, who somehow got the best, all the tiebreakers, got the 2 seed, been playing some not great basketball as of late. They only have to win 2 games to win the conference tournament. So I'd kind of disagree a little bit with the argument of this is the most fair format. It gets the best team. It's like, well, for the full season, yes, but for the team that maybe is playing the best ball at the right time, I don't really think it is. I think, like I said, if Arkansas State was only to win like 2, 3, or like 4 games, maybe I'd have them winning it here, but I end up liking Troy, and I'm going with them over Coastal Carolina there. So I do just kind of want to shout out some of these websites that I'm using here. So you can see here, Heston Hoops is the first one here. I really like, their interface where it's nice. It can fit on the whole screen there. Maybe not as, flashy, but yeah, like I said. And then they have just literally you can click on any conference, like I said, let's show the ones that I've already filled out. So that's the ones there. Or the other website I've been using is Shooty Hoops, which, maybe a little bit more colorful here. I kind of like that. And plus, there's a lot of fun stuff here on this website. Like, I used their TV guide the other day to make my Shoot DaRock 6 to watch. So definitely check that website out. And that's, kind of similar here. They just have, like, the picks here. You can kind of just scroll through, click the bracket. And then, like I said, it is a little bit more scrolling, but it does, maybe a little bit more visually pleasing. So use both of those. Or then I'll give the shout out to the other one that I've been using. It's Hutchball. On made an app for it. Same thing, kind of just here has all the different tournaments. So do just kind of want to shout all those out. Like I said, I'm putting all my brackets on those 3 places, so you can follow me or just look up Shoot DaRock on those apps. Granted, I don't think you can see other people's picks until tournaments start, but if you want to compete against me, those are the places to do it. So that's going to wrap it up. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I know, well, actually, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of cuts in this, recording this pretty late. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, college basketball, I've been doing content for it all year, so whether you're just showing up now, whether you've been watching the videos all year, I really appreciate you guys. Do want to apologize. I know a little bit sporadic schedule here the past couple of weeks. For those of you who know me personally, I've been in the job market, in the job search, so have been doing some traveling for some interviews, and that's kind of messed up my recording schedule a little bit here, because it's either I gotta kind of take my setup with me like I did a little bit last week, but then later in the week came back up to my apartment here in Wisconsin, and then going back and forth to Wisconsin and Illinois, which again, it's not like a crazy drive, but still just kind of throws my day off, throws my routine off a little bit. So apologies for that, but yeah, this week we should have a normal video, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then next week I really want to try to do all 5 days. I keep slacking where I keep meaning to record on Sunday nights to have some weekend recap come out on Monday. I keep kind of dropping the ball there, but for March Madness here, like I'm really going to try hard to do 4, if not all 5 days, just kind of, like I said, especially next week where there's going to be games every day, where it's going to be hard. I can't really do like the record all the games at once, previews at once, so I'm going to kind of have to do it daily. Hopefully going to get some guests on for those, like I said, A10 Superfan, maybe even some my guy Ian, who I had talked about the Big East in the past. Tom I had on for the Big 12, football. Might try to get him on for Big 12 basketball. So we'll see. But yeah, and if you're a guest list or someone listening still at this point that wants to be a guest, definitely drop in the comments. Let me know. While you're down there, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow the show, and rate 5 stars on Spotify. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.